Not long after the Las Vegas shootings, there was an interview that John Lear did, and I was able to ask John a question that hadn't been asked regarding the Las Vegas shooting. And it was at that time that I learned about the secret underground subway that goes from under the area of the Bellagio and Luxor to Area 51. And it looks now a lot of information has come forward that the casino helped certain people involved to get away, and then protected them at the Vidara under armed guard. And both John and myself are on the same page as far as anyone else that was able to get away. The only possible way that they could get away from that many police, security, and law enforcement and intelligence personnel, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds of security, police, intelligence personnel all around the area when this shooting occurred at the Route 91 Harvest Festival concert. And the only way that people could have gotten away, shooters could have gotten away, besides being helped by the casino and hidden at the Vidara, anyone that got away from that area, we think escaped through this underground MAGLEV train. And a MAGLEV train, also known as a magnetic levitation train, uses two sets of magnets for propulsion. They're very interesting as they use no moving parts, are almost completely silent, and super fast. I'll provide a MAGLEV train on the screen for everyone to see. And then, of course, they talk about possibly people who are involved being flown away via helicopter. And John, actually, I heard an interview where he was talking about one of the helicopters was using some sort of a signature or a transponder or something that made it look like a plane. And I'm going to get right into it. We're going to talk about the construction of this underground subway. And now, some of you might look into this. I've looked into a lot of this information, and some of you might try to debunk it or whatever. But believe me, I've confirmed a lot of this information. They didn't publicly announce to the Echelon project until 2006. And it is true, I just want to preface with this, it is true that later they claimed that they ran out of money. And now, just because they didn't publicly announce what they were working on in this construction until 2006 doesn't mean that it wasn't going on, the construction wasn't going on before the public announcement. In fact, it was going on, and there's evidence and photographs and all kinds of information to support that. So we're not going to pay attention to their public announcement of the Echelon project in 2006. That's kind of irrelevant. And then, of course, we know that later on the property, I believe it was Resorts World bought property and built a like a resort or something like that, a resort casino. And of course, in time, eventually, I mean, this is prime real estate here in Las Vegas. So, of course, eventually when they're done doing the construction and working on this underground train, eventually somebody's going to come and build around the area that they were working on, or build over the area that they were working on. And that's exactly what Resorts World did. Although, in looking at the property, it does appear that certain areas are not going to be touched, and it's probably because of the proximity to what's underneath it. So we're going to start with John Lear originally telling us about the fake casino that hid the massive underground construction for the MAGLEV underground subway that goes to Area 51. And John talked about a fake casino hiding massive underground construction of a super secret subway to a secret base at Nevada test site. Super secret high-speed maglev subway whisks 2,000 workers to Paiute Mesa, massive underground base, in 21 minutes. And I've heard other people say that it's like 15 minutes. So very short amount of time. Construction error blacks out Bellagio for 3 days in 2004 as backhoe hits Bellagio main power grid, resulting in a huge intelligence disaster. Now this I confirmed is true, and there are public articles related to it, this power outage that John talks about. And he made a mistake during the interview, and he said 98 or 84 or something like that. But he meant 2004. According in this, and this did happen in 2004. There was an outage that began around, I believe it was the 11th. We'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. But I looked into it, and just for a matter of public record, according to then Chief Info Officer Glenn Bonner, they claimed they couldn't determine the cause of this outage that John talks about. Later, county officials would claim that the power cables degraded and rotted somehow, even though they were designed and made of materials that don't degrade or rot. The reported financial loss to the Bellagio was estimated at $2.5 to $3 million per day, and this outage lasted 3 or 4 days, so that Bellagio lost a boatload of money in this. Echelon workers were told that if they even looked down for a peek on the construction area, they would be shot by CIA sharpshooters armed with high-powered rifles. 3 of the 4 shooters involved in the Vegas shootings, John believes, probably used the subway to escape. And he says the 4th shooter was in a helicopter that was never seen again. It disappeared from the area. So here's some photos of the Echelon project or construction that was going on for quite some time before they publicly announced that they were working on this fake Echelon project in 2006, which was just an excuse to the public and everybody wondering in Las Vegas what the heck they were working on and building. So, and then of course we know that it was kind of all fake because they never even built this Echelon and claimed they ran out of money. Them publicly claiming that they were building this Echelon project, which was just a cover, a public cover, doesn't mean that that's when the construction started. The construction, a lot of this construction started before that. So that's just something to kind of bear in mind. In 1978, the shadow government started building a secret base near Silent Spring Canyon on the Paiute Mesa in the Nevada test site. Its name then was Sandia. Several miles to the north on Gold Flat, they built a huge new secret airbase that rivals Area 51 in size and technology. They built 2 huge runways with a hangar in the middle of the runways so that they could test new aircraft in total secrecy, using alternate runways so that the secret projects using the eastern half of the hangar and runway could not see the secret projects using the western part of the hangar and western runway. The giant hangar is about 15 feet lower than the runway and is connected with a sloping taxiway. This prevents anybody from peeking into the hangar when the doors are open. The airbase is connected to the Sandia facility 14.6 miles to the south with an underground subway. And John Lear provided some maps and diagrams and stuff. Here's one here that he shared. Thank you, John Lear. Big shout out to John Lear. Stay well, stay healthy, and we all appreciate the information you provide. John Lear, the grandfather of conspiracy. And so here, up here it says Tonopah, and then Highway 6. As we work our way down, it says dirt road, and it's just labeled Sandia Base. This is the point where the holograph, it says holograph, but he means hologram, hid the cutoff for Sandy's airstrip. And he talks about, I've heard interviews where he talks about a hologram that hides this stuff. A guard shack near, it says guard shack entrance to base camp. There's mess hall, operations is here. And then here's the main camp, he says. Security's down here. And then there's a dry lake, and it's labeled Gold Flat. Here we have a runway with dual hangars in the middle that he was talking about, and it says runway there. The whole thing is a runway. Or, I'm sorry, there's a runway on this side, there's a runway on that side, and then these are the dual hangars that John talks about, that I think, if I understand his interviews and his information correctly, they open up and something sits, as I was just reading a moment ago, 15 feet below. There's a giant hangar. Yeah. So that's got to be what he's talking about there. It says, here's some more information. It says security, and that they're in this area here. 8-foot high igloos, each one guarded with 2 soldiers holding rifles at port arms. Each has an air conditioning unit or something of similar size at the rear of the igloo. So they must have seen pictures of this stuff, or been in the area, whoever provided this info. The complex was built so that they could move NORAD and other secret facilities inside the Nevada test site, and essentially planned to secretly overthrow the constitutional republic of the United States of America. To house the 75,000 soldiers needed for the task, they built 5 huge underground facilities, 1 mile deep and 300 feet in diameter. Each of the underground facilities includes housing for 15,000 soldiers, cafeterias, several for each facility, gyms, parks, movie theaters, and other entertainment facilities. Some informants speculate that this enormous underground facility is not for the overthrow of the government, but for protection from some major disaster known only to the shadow government. Informants say that this facility is just part of a huge project which includes 6-lane highways connecting major cities, also built underground, and very large quantities of provisions of food, water, and other staples. I personally wouldn't trust anything that the shadow government says or does, and I would tend to err on the side of John Lear's information regarding the shadow government. Over the past 20 years, 18-wheeler truck drivers have reported delivering full truckloads to underground areas located all around the country, which are unloaded under heavy guard. And the information that we hear about the shadow government and the stuff that they do is not friendly information. It's not good information. They're not doing this stuff for an innocent reason or innocent cause. These truck drivers claim there are as many as 50 secret entrances nationwide to these unloading areas. They report that at some entrances they are required to get out of their trucks and let other drivers continue on, returning several hours later to be given back their now empty trucks. They report that they are sworn to secrecy and required to sign security oaths that spell out the penalties, which include incarceration and even death should they disclose any part of the operation. One of the truck drivers, who was also a pilot, noticed that one of the underground facilities was inside a mountain near an airport he flew in and out of regularly. He also noticed that the mountain had been removed from aeronautical navigational charts. Navigational approach charts depict all towers, mountains, and other obstructions near an airport that a pilot would have to be aware of during his approach. He speculated that some military moron in charge of security probably ordered, quote, "I want that mountain to disappear from every map or chart," unquote. Of course, this would be very unsafe for anyone that didn't know about this. They could hit the terrain. The military moron would not have realized the importance of the location and height of the mountain for aviation operations during inclement weather. The huge operation at Paiute Mesa employs more than 2,000 people, and during the past several years has increased security equal to or more restrictive than that required for Groom Lake. In other words, people working at this secret base, whether going in via the Tonopah Test Range, Mercury or Groom Lake, or by MAGLEV subway from Las Vegas, are weighed in and out, are subject to eye scan, facial recognition, palm prints, and other highly secretive methods of identification. They even built an enormous prison for anyone disclosing secret information. They did this because they had usually sent convicted guards and other personnel to the federal prison at Lovelock. Unfortunately, they realized too late that the convicted prisoners with nothing to lose were telling the other prisoners about the massive multi-level underground facilities all over the Nevada test site and on other highly secret information. Here's another map provided by John Lear. I apologize that it's not in the highest definition or the most clear quality, but this is just something that I can't, it wouldn't be possible for me to get you a better version of it. It is what it is, and we're just lucky that he gave it to us. I'll just highlight a couple of the things on the map. Huge underground hangar is marked here in the upper left corner, and it says entrance. Right in the middle we see Sandia secret runway, and you can see the kind of the double runway there. And then down here it says Red Flag Lake runway. So a couple of Red Flag Lake runways on the map as well. Silent Canyon, Sandia right here. And what else do we have? Dreamlands to the right over here. And then it says huge underground hangar at the bottom right of the screen, way below Dreamland. And this looks like a hangar, but it's not labeled. Possible subway routes, Nevada test site is what this is labeled. This is a possible subway route, underground subway route. So but as we work our way down the map, it's still difficult to kind of read. The entire Nevada test site has become, quote, the Kingdom of Nevada test site, unquote, with their own laws and regulations, and are not part of the United States of America. In order to keep the kingdom secret, they needed more than 2,000 additional workers daily from Las Vegas, but they had one big problem: how to get 2,000 people back and forth daily from Las Vegas without anyone being aware of the existence of the secret base. They couldn't use additional Boeing 737s from McCarran because they would not be able to justify the additional 2,000 workers. They couldn't bus them in because the transit time would be too long. So what they did was build an underground tunnel for a high-speed maglev subway that goes from underneath the Luxor to the Bellagio and then direct to the secret base. The trip takes about 21 minutes. They had to stop underground of the Bellagio because of the huge underground parking area. Workers park there and then enter the hotel through a secret entrance. Then go to a hidden entrance where they take secret elevators down to the subway. To get from the brand new Special Operations Terminal to the terminal underground below the Luxor, they take a transport and board the MAGLEV there. In order to build this subway in secret, they had to secure many acres of vacant land. They used land that was formerly occupied by the Stardust and built a fake casino called the Echelon. The fake casino was designed to hide the construction area from those cars and people on Las Vegas Boulevard, the Desert Inn Road, and Industrial Road. They built the framework of the Echelon so that the massive construction project was totally hidden from the public. The plan was, after the above groundwork was complete, to say the casino owners ran out of money, stop the construction of the Echelon, and wait for somebody to buy the property, which turned out to be Resorts World. All this is true. Unfortunately, since the hotel was just a fake, they probably didn't bother to build it to code, which Resorts World is about to find out. On Sunday, April 11, 2004 at 2 p.m., a backhoe working on the enlargement of the subway terminal under the Bellagio accidentally hit the Bellagio main power grid. A total and complete power failure wiped out Bellagio business for 3 entire days. Power at the Treasure Island and Monte Carlo were also interrupted. Of course, this was the largest intelligence disaster in the history of the shadow government. The secret government had to notify Nevada Power that they had accidentally caused the power failure because they needed their expertise to get the power back online. Many accidental disclosure forms had to be generated and signed. The owners of the Bellagio had to be reimbursed for the enormous amount of money they had lost over the 3 days of the blackout. How they managed to keep it all secret is beyond me, but they did. The shadow government has become so big and so powerful that they consider themselves above the law. They're so big and so powerful that the recent hurricanes and the Northern California fires they started with orbiting direct energy weapons killed 34 people, burned 5,700 structures to the ground, and burned over 200,000 acres of land, and they got away with it. For their part in the October 1 massacre, 3 of the 4 shooters used the subway to escape. The 4th shooter escaped in the helicopter he was shooting from. The helicopter was never seen again. Now, I personally haven't seen evidence that somebody was shooting from a helicopter. I did see evidence that there was a lot of helicopter activity, and I certainly think that one of the shooters might have gotten away via helicopter, especially if they were on a rooftop. However, I'm not going to say that it's not a possibility that somebody was shooting from a helicopter. The only 2 things that kind of come to mind are we didn't in the footage, we don't hear any helicopters that are very close. Certainly you'd hear them. They're very, very loud. And then shooting from a helicopter is not an easy thing to do. And then, of course, the further you are away, the harder it would be to do. Probably more likely that a shooter that was on a rooftop got away via helicopter. And I think that it might be a little more likely that because we didn't hear a loud helicopter so close that it might have been shooting in the footage, doesn't mean that it didn't happen. A lot of the footage was confiscated or suppressed, so it's very possible. But another thing that we could think about and consider would be a drone. The military does have drones that can shoot, and they can be equipped with firearms and stuff and guns. And of course that would be much quieter than a helicopter. It could be remote controlled, and might even be and I'm going to say, go out on a limb and say it probably is even more accurate than it would be for a human to be shooting from a helicopter much further away. The idea of the drone shooting.